Good morning, all of you. I welcome you all to Ansarkari. So, in this video, we'll be taking up the important articles for 20th of April 2023. So, let's quickly start with the analysis video. So, India's population to edge ahead of the China's by mid 2023 as per United Nations. So, obviously, we were having these forecasts कि इस साल India would be surpassing and overtaking China when it comes to the total population. So, India would be the world's largest country in terms of population, and this would be followed by China and Brazil, Russia, and South Africa. So apart from that, when we have a look at the total fertility rate per woman, these are the figures for 2023. So South Africa has it around 2.3. India, we are at exact 2. And Brazil, it is 1.6. Russia, 1.5. China is at the lowest amongst these 5 countries. So these are basically the BRICS nation, we can say, here we're talking about them. So India is at 2. So her total fertility rate per woman, basically the number of children that a woman expects to have during her entire lifetime. So that is, we are at 2. So we can say that we are at exactly the replacement rate also. So rising strength. The United Nations said in a report that India will be having about 2.9 million people more than China in the middle of 2023. And India was not expected to become the most populous nation until later this decade. So पहले की forecast से अगर हम जाएं, so पहले के estimations ये बोल रहे थे कि in the end of this decade, India would be having the most largest population in the world. But we are achieving this thing. We will be achieving this thing in mid 2023. So but it has happened quickly due to a drop in China's fertility rate. So China में जो fertility rate है वो drastically decline हुआ है. And among the BRICS nation, India has the second highest total fertility rate of 2, while that of China is at least. So अभी हमने देखा China का lowest है 1.2 पे, India का second highest है 2 पे, highest is South Africa 2.3. So our population would be reaching 142.86 crores against China's 142.57 crores. So we would be surpassing China when it comes to population. And इससे context में हमें पता होना चाहिए कि challenges से क्या हो सकते हैं and और कैसे demographics change हो रही हैं. So United Nations Population Fund है, इसके बारे में पता होना चाहिए. तो वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन रिपोर्ट 2023, दिस इज पब्लिश्ड बाय यूनाइटेड नेशंस पॉपुलेशन फंड. सो दिस इज अ फैक्ट. एंड वर्ल्ड की पॉपुलेशन की बात करें तो इट हैज बीन रिकॉर्डेड एट 800 करोड़ in November 2022. सो डेफिनेटली मतलब डेमोग्राफिक्स चेंज हो रही हैं तो उससे कुछ challenges भी आएंगे and कुछ benefits भी होंगे. So it is called for a radical rethink on how countries address their changing demographies and cautioned against use of family planning as a tool for achieving the fertility targets. So global experience showed that family planning targets can lead to gender-based discrimination and harmful practices such as prenatal sex determination leading to sex-selective abortion. This has been said. So have informed states of the same-sex marriage hearing, a government tells the Supreme Court. And individuals, they have no control over their orientation. So yesterday we had one point of view of the Supreme Court also regarding when it was talking about the identification of genders. So it said that merely genital organs will not be deciding the gender of a person, a male and female. And we also had a look at the central government's point of view, that it was saying that leave it to the legislature. Legislature should decide this thing, whether these marriages should be legalized or not. But the final verdict, it is still awaited. And as of now, only 2 states, including Madhya Pradesh, they have entered appearance. So the case may take a longer turn if more and more states, they enter the appearance. So we have the Special Marriage Act. So Supreme Court is basically trying to make that act gender neutral and incorporate the legalization of the same-sex marriages within that particular act. So center, it has asked the states to enforce the new rules to check stray dog numbers. So we are seeing the incidents related to stray dogs and killing of children that is rising. So new rules, they have been issued by the center and that needs to be followed by the states. So a stray dog attacks increase, the case it has decided the center has decided to reach out to the states, local self-governments and the resident welfare associations on implementing the new set of animal birth control rules which have been prepared by the animal husbandry ministry recently. So जो number है stray dogs का उसको regulate करने की जरूरत है. And apart from that, micro level, obviously this thing can be resolved at the micro level only. And then we also have the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. They were amended to adopt humane procedures for controlling stray animal population through open methods of surgeries and operations. So this was also one thing कि stray dogs के साथ you can't be violent. You need to have humane approach when it comes to dealing with them. And Supreme Court की judgment अगर हम देखें तो it said कि local bodies they were not following 2001 rules and we got a number of complaints on cruelty to animals. So the ministry in consultation, the Animal Welfare Board of India, they have revised the rules and the ministry has requested all the chief secretaries in the state government department to ensure कि these are properly implemented. And ये rules euthanasia की बात करते हैं for incurably ill and mortally wounded dogs under the expert guidance. So batting for bats, Kerala Institute, it strives to dispel the myths which are related to bats. So people, they are largely unaware of the economic and environmental benefits that bats provide to humans. So bats, they have been clogged in a superstition since ancient times. So they've been part of this thing. And their nocturnal nature and spooky appearance place them in horror stories also. So horror stories, obviously, they have been depicted. And Kerala Forest Research Institute, it is on a mission to dispel all the myths which are related to the bats and create awareness ki how their diversity in the ecosystem, their functions and threats which are faced by them. So the campaign is named Bat for Bats. And so this is a part of the International Bat Appreciation Day. So this day, it aims to remind the people of the role that bats play in daily lives of the people. So कुछ like beneficiary role भी है जो bats play करते हैं in the human life. And so the economic or environmental benefits जो हैं, people are unaware about that and there are many myths जो bats से related है. So globally 1460 species of bat मिलते हैं which are categorized into 21 families. India में 135 bat species मिलते हैं. They're belonging to the 9 families जो कि identify किए गए हैं. Kerala, it is home to about 48 of the species. Bats pollination में भी बहुत important role play करते हैं, and seed dispersal of over 500 plants of commercial and ecological value, aiding in the forest regeneration also. So this is one of the most important roles. And bats, when it comes to like, they also, eat small insects in huge amount. So this also helps to save billions of dollars in agricultural losses. So anthropogenic factors like habitat loss, ho gaya, poaching, environmental pollution, climate change, biological invasions, they have caused decline of the bat population worldwide. So Indian Fruit Bat Project, it was launched in June 2022. So this is there, and this project, it aims to map and conserve the roosting sites of the Indian flying fox, which is one of the world's largest bats. So this is found in India, Indian flying fox. Coming to the editorial section, so here IT rules पे जो recently amendment किए गए थे उसके regarding ही ये article है. We have been like done this, so it's a repetition. So this amended IT rules, they will not only diminish the right to question the authority and speak truth to power, but also erase civil liberties. So जो fact check unit की बात की गई है, which has been a newly launched thing, तो इसमें जो अमेंडमेंट किए गए हैं रूल्स में, तो उसमें बेसिकली उससे रिलेटेड ही सारे कंसर्न्स हैं कि फैक्ट चेक यूनिट एक सोल अथॉरिटी कैसे डिसाइड करेगी कि फेक न्यूज कौन सी है, कौन सी लाइक गलत इंफॉर्मेशन स्प्रेड कर रही है ऑन द सोशल मीडिया, एंड देन ऑब्वियसली दैट वुड हैव टू बी टेकन डाउन. सो इससे जो लिबर्टीज हैं ऑफ लाइक सिविल लिबर्टीज की बात हो गई, योर राइट टू फ्री स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन हो गया, बट ऑब्वियसली इनके ऊपर कुछ रीजनेबल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस भी हैं एट द सेम टाइम. एंड देन एक कंसर्न ये भी है कि इट वुड बी लीडिंग टू कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ऑफ पावर in one body. So that is, these are some of the concerns. And let's just quickly go through this article also once. So consequence की बात करें तो the upshoot of the new regulation is this कि union government gets to decide for itself कि what information bogus, कौन सी information bogus है, central government decide करेगी and gets to exercise wide ranging powers of censorship by compelling intermediaries to take down the post deemed fake or false. So जो भी content central government के against लगेगा, सिर्फ लगेगा उसको ही आप fake news categorize करके you can get it removed. So ये concentration of power हो गया, थोड़ा centralization की तरफ we are seeing more element of centralization. So जब हम democracy की बात करते हैं जहाँ पे information free है, where we have the right to freedom of speech that is constitutionally guaranteed, the new law must strike us as deeply aberrant. But जैसे हमने बोला freedom of speech and expression है, वहाँ पे reasonable restrictions भी आ जाती हैं, but again वही हो गया कि concentration of power अगर government के hand पे हो रहा है, तो why only government, central government is deciding this thing. So इसका भी proper एक democratic process होना चाहिए कि कैसे, what are the factors and what is going to be the process through which you will be categorizing any content as fake news on social media. So IT rules हैं, they are a part of the Information Technology Act of 2000, which is a law which at its inception, it was meant to provide legal recognition for the electronic commerce. So initially जब ये law आया तो electronic commerce जो e-commerce की हम बात करते हैं उसको legal recognition के लिए we had this law initially. And apart from that, when IT rules, they were introduced in 2021, it's suppression of a previous guideline, it was already riddled by controversy. So divided into two distinct parts, the rules they sought to regulate the intermediaries through the media and the digital news media, including the OTT media services, and a Union Ministry of Information and Broadcasting is the ministry which is related to it. So insofar as intermediaries they are concerned, IT rules imposed a series of onerous obligations, and a breach of which could result in loss of safe harbor also. Safe harbor principles की ये हमें बात करते हैं, act provides safe harbor by granting immunity to the intermediaries so long as these entities they observe due diligence in discharging their duties under the law. So ये safe harbor principle है, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए, can be asked in prelims. And talking about the restrictions through the executive diktats, so amendments introduced this month, they bring with them a new assault on our liberty. So liberty पे basically restrictions की बात की जा रही है. So to be sure, misinformation or the fake news, whatever one might want to call it, it is rampant on the internet. So its effects are unquestionably deleterious. But what might the solutions to this problem be? So इस problem के solution क्या है वो important है. So this is the often cited passage from the Justice Louis Brandeis classic 1927 opinion in the United States Supreme Court case Whitney versus California, जहाँ पे लिखा गया कि if there be time to expose through discussion the falsehoods and fallacies to avoid the evil by the processes of education, the remedy to be applied is more speech, not enforced silence. But given the structural inequalities in society, we know that a resolution of this kind is not always helpful, that speech by itself can be harmful, and when it is, it demands intervention from the law. So इस part में होगी reasonable restrictions की भी बात. So जो भी problems है, we can't say कि सारी problems legislative action के through resolve की जा सकती हैं. Certainly thoughtless censorship, it is never an answer. So जो गवर्नमेंट को पावर्स दी जा रही है बेसिकली जो फैक्ट चेक यूनिट रहेगा ये बोला जा रहा है कि इट वुड बी लीडिंग टू सेंसरशिप सो दिस इज थॉटलेस सेंसरशिप it is not going to be an answer to any problem and what is worse is in the case of IT rules the restrictions flow not through legislation but through executive diktat so ये rules obviously executive ने change किए हैं so it is not through कि legislation को चेंज किया जा रहा है बट रूल्स चेंज किए गए सो इसमें बेसिकली एग्जीक्यूटिव के हैंड में मोर कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ पावर देखी जा रही है एंड आर्टिकल 19 क्लॉज 1 सब क्लॉज ए की बात करें तो इट ग्रांट्स टू एवरी सिटीजन राइट टू फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन सो इट इज लीडिंग टू वायलेशन ऑफ दिस फंडामेंटल राइट एंड so reasonable restrictions जो applicable हो सकते हैं on this article is that are made by law on one or the other of the grounds stipulated in Article 19 clause 2 namely in the interest of sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with the foreign states, public order, decency, morality or in relation to contempt of court, defamation or incitement to an offense. So ये कुछ reasonable restrictions हैं इन्हीं केस में Article 19 में जो हमारी fundamental right है उसको वापस लिया जा सकता है या इट इज नॉट गारंटीड इन ऑल दीज केसेस बट यहाँ पे आईटी रूल्स की बात करें तो इनमें से वी आर नॉट एबल टू सी एनी ऑफ देम बीइंग एप्लीकेबल and it's like plain to see कि fake news and misinformation they are not grounds on which speech can be limited so fake news and misinformation ground it is not been mentioned in the reasonable restrictions and in landmark judgment in Shreya Singhal versus Union of India 2015, Supreme Court in striking down Article 66A of the IT Act held that the law that limits speech can neither be vague nor it can be overbroad. So the amendments to the IT rules, they suffers on both these accounts. First, key notification it fails to define कि fake news होगा क्या इसकी कोई definition नहीं है secondly it allows the government's fact check unit to make declarations on the veracity of any news in respect of any business that involves the state so the use of open-ended and undefined words, especially the use of phrase any business. So any business maybe can include hoga in a nation like India, where the state it has wide-ranging reach indicates that government will have an effective carte blanche to decide what each of us can see, hear, and read on the internet. So arbitrary powers ज़्यादा हैं, चीजें clearly defined नहीं हैं. And proper lawfully enacted statute would have also demanded a decision on whether a directive to remove this misinformation is the only solution to fake news, or whether there are other solutions possible, yeah, less restrictive alternatives available. For instance, in many cases, government faced with what it believes is deceptive news always has the power to provide its own version of the facts without calling for an erasure of the other accounts. So जब भी ऐसे पहले देखा गया है कुछ मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन या फेक न्यूज के इंसिडेंट्स, सो एज अ सोल्यूशन गवर्नमेंट ने अपना वर्जन प्रोवाइड किया है कि व्हाट इज द ट्रू फैक्ट्स, इंस्टेड ऑफ इंश्योरिंग कि जो चीजें ऑनलाइन सर्कुलेट हो रही हैं दे नीड्स टू बी गेट इरेज्ड और नॉट. सो कुछ ऑल्टरनेटिव्स भी पॉसिबल हो सकते हैं रादर देन जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट कि फेक न्यूज आपने कैटेगराइज किया एंड उसको आपको रिमूव करना पड़ेगा फ्रॉम द प्लेटफॉर्म. So India UAE cooperation to sow regional food security. So UAE, whose food security has been built on the imports from the global markets, it is now focusing on twin objectives of food access and readiness to confront supply chain crisis. So India, the world's second largest food producer, is an essential partner in the UAE's ambition to strengthen the food security. And India-UAE Food Security Partnership, it stands to benefit from the multiple points of the convergence that the two countries are trying to ensure and converge. So many capabilities are there. The potential is huge. So India has built its status as a global agricultural export powerhouse using its vast tracts of arable land, a highly favorable climate, a large and growing food production and processing sector. So definitely when it comes to India's stature as a global agricultural export powerhouse, so India ने खुद अपना status इस चीज में increase किया है, and along with serving global markets with its diversified agriculture produce, India has in recent years acted as a humanitarian provider of food to developing countries, demonstrating our awareness of its evolving role in advancing regional and global food security. सो हमने बजटरी प्रोविजंस भी बहुत सारे लाइक प्रोवाइड किए हैं, बजट इंक्रीज किया है, फंड्स प्रोवाइड किए हैं, मॉडर्न सप्लाई चेन पे वी आर वर्किंग and managing the spanning farm gate to retail outlets. So investments which are complemented by how India has placed its food sector to benefit from bilateral trade agreements reflect countries' strong and sustained intent to make most of the agricultural capabilities in the global food marketplace. So parallelly, India may be also running the PDS system, which is the world's largest food subsidy program, and it provides 800 million citizens with the subsidized grains, which provides people with reassurance of daily affordable means. So food security तो अपने आप में एक challenge है ही, but India is the world's second largest global agricultural export powerhouse also. साथ ही साथ PDS system, which is world's largest food subsidy program, which is run by India. So we are like successfully we are achieving things in this area, and equally laudable is our India's Prime Minister overarching scheme for holistic nutrition abhiyan, which is Poshan Abhiyan, jo ki midday meal schemes. So that is also being run successfully, which is the world's largest nutrition program for children and women. And G20 May, since India is the president this year, so we are also promoting the consumption and farming of millets, which are nutritious, drought-resistant, sustainable crops. And that's what we are promoting. So UAE ke saath, on which areas are we working together? So seen together, India brings to the table an incredible wealth of food sector experience. So hamara experience jo hai, UAE can have like learn from India's experience and the ability to operationalize the world's largest food supply chains. So that's what UAE can take away from India. And during the I2U2, which like इसमें 4 countries members हैं, I2 is India and Israel, U2 में United Arab Emirates and USA हैं. So summit जो हुआ था last July में, UAE, it has committed $2 billion in investment towards constructing food parks in India in states of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. So investments are also flowing into India in this area. And while the signing of a food security corridor on the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement sidelines, so it has taken forward India's envisioned presence on the global food value chain beyond the UAE. So that's there. And सो जो यहाँ पे हमने बात करी फूड सिक्योरिटी कॉरिडोर के ऊपर भी अग्रीमेंट हुआ है. सो पोटेंशियली इसमें it's going to be a route for foods which are made and processed in India. So beginning their outbound journey on the Indian coast of Arabian Sea, passing through UAE से भी pass होगा towards major international markets beyond UAE also. So this would help India in unlocking greater productivity, efficiency, and growth for its millions of workers and employees. And UAE की benefits की बात करें तो the benefits they go beyond maintaining and diversifying its food reserves and trade linkages could enable the Emirates to leverage its strategically placed location, which is between Asia and Europe, to serve as India's food export gateway to West Asia and Africa region and further beyond. So food export gateway ये एक important role है जो UAE play कर सकता है for the food exports जो इंडिया से जाएंगे to Europe and African region. And so we also have this Dubai Multi-Commodities Center, which is UAE's largest free trade zone. And they launched this Agriota, which is an agriculture, trading and commodity platform to link Indian farmers to the food companies जो UAE में हैं. So Indian farmers easily they can be linked contact with the UAE food companies through this platform जिसका नाम है Agriota. So directly जो Indian farmers है they can reach out, they can gain access to the UAE's food market and export their food products. And apart from that जो बाकी initiatives है बाकी components है that includes mega food parks, logistics, warehouse hubs हो गए, fruits and vegetable hubs हो गया. So all of these things are being focused upon. So there is much that India stands to gain from the UAE's private sector projects spanning its agriculture and food processing sector. Obviously India benefit करने वाला है क्योंकि India में investments are also flowing from UAE and plus जो easy access India could provide ki ja rahi hai, that would be important and that would be beneficial for India. So those projects will generate lakhs of non-farm agricultural jobs also. And bolstered by the UAE's infrastructural capabilities, India's agricultural products, they will have more resilient and diversified pathways to the global market. So UAE में जो infrastructure है, that is also modern and advanced, and उसके through जो एग्रीकल्चरल हमारे एक्सपोर्ट्स रहेंगे अगर वो यूए के थ्रू बाकी कंट्री बाकी कॉन्टिनेंट्स में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किए जाएंगे या ट्रेड किए जाएंगे वाया यूएई तो दैट वुड बी आल्सो helping the perishable items. So India's G20 presidency, it offers an opportune moment for both India and UAE to showcase दोनों की अपनी viable strategies and frameworks. So milk production की बात करें तो we have been facing challenges here and हमने बात की थी कि जो fat content है that is declining, so उसकी वजह से milk prices are increasing. So definitely India world का largest milk producer है and milk prices they are ruling high as supply it is constrained by the lumpy skin disease and high fodder cost. So ये दो challenges हैं, दो reasons है जिसकी वजह से we can say कि we are seeing high milk prices. So lumpy skin disease की वजह से milk production कम हो गया and high fodder cost. So इसकी वजह से cost increase हो गई and यहाँ पे data भी दे रखा है. So this chart is showing the retail inflation and inflation in milk since January 2015. So January 2015 में जो milk inflation थी आप देख सकते हो peak पे थी and आज भी उसी peak के around prices चल रहे हैं. बीच में it declined like very sharply. उसके बाद जब COVID-19 आया फिर से prices बहुत ज़्यादा increase हो गए. फिर एक sharp decline आया and उसके बाद से they are just rising. एंड जो 2015 जनवरी के आसपास इन्फ्लेशन चल रही थी मिल्क प्राइस में, आज के टाइम में भी हम वहीं पे ही हैं। एंड रेड जो ग्राफ है वो रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन शो कर रहा है। सो रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन भी जनवरी 2015 से थोड़ी सी हायर है, बट यू कैन सी कि इसमें कितनी ज्यादा वॉलेटिलिटी देखने को मिल रही है। So coming to the science topic, what is a star planet pair emitting radio signals? So star planet pair hai, which emits radio signals. So why is this happening? So what is YZ SETI B? ये होता क्या है? We'll see that. How have astronomers detected the radio signals from this planet, which is 12 light years away? So YZ SETI B, it is a rocky Earth-sized exoplanet hai, which is rotating around a small red dwarf star, YZ SETI, barely 12 light years away from the Earth. So astronomers ne deduce kiya hai ki radio signals they have been detected, they were result of the interaction between the planet's magnetic field and the star. So because of this interaction and जो magnetic field के बीच में interaction हुआ उसकी वजह से radio signals emit हुए, and such signals they can only be produced agar exoplanet orbits very close to its parent star and has its own magnetic field to influence the stellar wind and generate the signals. So तभी possible है कि radio signals emit किए जा सकते हैं. So ये magnetic field matter क्यों करती है हमारे लिए? So just as energy surges from the sun, sometimes it disrupts the telecommunications on the earth and damages the orbiting satellites. So जैसे sun से जब बहुत ज़्यादा energy emit होती है तो उसकी वजह से जो हमारी telecommunications में disruptions देखने को मिलती हैं and जो satellite इंडिया के around orbit भी कर रही है उनको भी damage हो सकता है. So intense burst of energy जो हम इस YZ SETI star exoplanet exchange produce spectacular auroral lights also. So इससे भी जब बहुत ज़्यादा intense burst of energy होता है इस exoplanet से तो उसकी वजह से भी it produces spectacular auroral lights. So aurora के बारे में I hope आप सबने सुना होगा. So we get to see this indirectly in the form of radio emissions जो हमने receive किए हैं. So these radio waves, which are strong enough to be picked up on Earth, confirmed the existence of an exoplanetary magnetic field. So इससे हम ये confirm कर पाए कि there is a magnetic field present है around an exoplanet, and such signals they can only be produced जब exoplanet it orbits very close to its parent star. हम देख चुके हैं. And so what happens next? So curiously, Mars, which is orbiting the sun at a safe distance, it also has a similar story to tell. So both Mars and Earth, they were very much alike billions of years ago with a lot of water and similar atmospheric systems. But in spite of this, life सिर्फ Earth पे start हुई, and while the other became cold as the solar winds stripped it of most of its atmosphere. So Mars के ऊपर life did not like start. Earth के ऊपर life started जब billions of years ago दोनों पे जो situation थी, जो conditions थी, they were exactly the same. So we are hoping to get additional observations on this target of the exoplanet, and longer term monitoring that would be important to confirm these results and further investigate properties of the radio signals. So in signals ke through, definitely astronomers, they would be learning more about the rocky worlds and the deepest reaches of space running rings around their parent stars. So state cannot discriminate against individuals over sexuality. This is what Supreme Court says. This cannot be the basis to discriminate. Obviously, this is also mentioned in the fundamental rights also. So the bench led by CGI says the state cannot push aside the need for legal recognition of the same-sex marriages within the LGBTQ community as an urban and the elitist concept. So सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने बोला था कि दिस इज एन अर्बन एंड एलिटिस्ट कॉन्सेप्ट, बट सुप्रीम कोर्ट एंड सीजेआई इज सेइंग कि आप इस चीज को सेट असाइड या साइड में नहीं रख सकते हो, सेइंग दिस रीजन कि दिस इज एन अर्बन एंड एलिटिस्ट फिनोमेना है एंड यू कैन नॉट डिस्क्रिमिनेट ऑन दिस बेसिस. सो पिटिशनर्स क्लेम calling them elitist is unfair view of the government. So obviously petitioners का मानना भी यही है कि अगर आप इस community को बोलोगे कि they are elitist, या फिर since what they are demanding कि same sex marriages legalize करी जानी चाहिए, and आपने उसको categorize कर दिया कि it's an urban and elitist concept या phenomena, तो this is going to be unfair for them. So it's also an argument in response to the contention that this is all very elitist or urban or biased in favor of a particular class. So this is not going to be biased. This is what CJ says. And apart from this, government has also not shown any data whatsoever that same-sex attraction is a solely urban characteristic. So अगर government ये बोल रहा है, ये reason दे रहा है, तो government को कुछ data भी provide करना पड़ेगा, reasoning provide करनी पड़ेगी कि why this has been called as urban elitist concept. So urban characteristics क्या डिफाइन करती हैं इस, अगर आप ये चीज बोल रहे हो तो कोई अर्बन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स आपको कोई डेटा प्रोवाइड करना पड़ेगा टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट. सो गवर्नमेंट हैज प्रोवाइडेड नथिंग, सो देयर इज नो डेटा फोर्थ कमिंग फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट. सो पिटिशनर्स की डिमांड ये भी है कि जो स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट है उसको आप जेंडर न्यूट्रल बना दीजिए, सो दैट दे कैन मैरी and was meant to be an alternative to unpopular marriages which do not answer to the socially, culturally, and legally ingrained concept of marriage. So Sudan में we are seeing a war between military and paramilitary forces. So जो Indians वहाँ पे stuck हैं, they are saying कि वहाँ कोई power, कोई food supply hotels में नहीं है जहाँ पे वो रुके हुए हैं. So definitely इसके लिए भी India might be, planning another operation so that we can get back all the Indians safely back to the country. So Rajnath wants disengagement, de-escalation process over Ladakh standoff to continue. So जो disengagement talks चल रही हैं and de-escalation. So our Union Defense Minister wants this thing to continue जहाँ तक कि Eastern Ladakh में जो dispute चल रहा है with China. So talking about quantum mission, so rupees 6,000 crores has been allocated to it by the Union Cabinet. So quantum computers, they can work several times faster than the speediest machines of today, and they can facilitate secure communication networks. So जो conventional computer systems हैं, उनसे बहुत fast quantum computers work and function करते हैं. So 4 thematic hubs सेटअप किए जाएंगे इन टॉप academic and national research and development institutions to focus on generation of new knowledge. So the National Quantum Mission, it will fund research and development of the quantum computer technology and associated application. Definitely funding बहुत important है. Quantum computers, they are work in progress globally also. They exploit properties of the atom, which are only explainable by the principles of quantum mechanics. So qubits होता है जो basic unit होता है when we're talking about the quantum computer. So the plan, it involves developing intermediate scale quantum computers, and So just like bits जो conventional computers में होते हैं जिसमें 1 and 0 होता है, they are the basic units by which computers they process the information. So quantum computers की case में it is qubits. So Q means basically quantum. Quantum bits, they are the units of processed by the quantum computers. So the mission, it will help develop the magnetometers with high sensitivity in the atomic systems, atomic clocks for precision timing, communications and navigation. So in areas में, when we talk about quantum computers, so in सब की application in different areas में मिलती है, and only 6 countries so far they have some capability in this domain. So 6 countries globally जिनके पास ये capability है, and definitely India is a part of this. So the mission will bring India to the forefront along with them, and India can be a world leader also here. Coming to the world page here. So North Korea is planning for its first spy satellite, and it is ready for a launch. So Sudan mein situation is really volatile and highly risky. So UN estimates put casualties at 300, but toll likely to be higher. And so ceasefire के लिए बात चल रही थी, but that has failed. So इसके पीछे हमने reason भी देखा था कि why there's a conflict going on or why it has started in Sudan. So Patriot missiles USA made हैं, USA की हैं. So they've been made available to Ukraine again by USA. So conservationists in Sri Lanka, they slammed the plan to export monkeys to China. So activists feared that monkeys allegedly causing crop damage, they could end up in testing the laboratories. So basically, जैसे we have mouse they are used in laboratories for testing. So activists का ये fear है कि they might end up in the laboratories only, and जो monkeys हैं जो श्रीलंका में they are causing crop damage, so इसलिए ये बातें चल रही हैं कि they might be exported to China. So zoologists and conservationists in Sri Lanka, they slammed a recent government proposal exploring the export of monkeys to China, terming it an ad hoc, illegal, short-sighted response to a long-standing human-animal conflict. So solution जो श्रीलंका गवर्नमेंट ने प्रपोज किया है कि आप monkeys को export कर सकते हो to China, so that जो ये human-animal conflict agricultural sector में देखने को मिल रही है, इसका एक possible solution ये है. But we also have this component India में भी, specifically southern India में जहाँ पे elephant population है that destroy the fields and agricultural crops. But the solution, this is not a permanent solution कि you can export that the animals from your country. So you can see in this picture also, this is a picture of the Sri Lankan tauk macaques, which is a golden brown colored monkey, and it is endemic to Sri Lanka only. Coming to the business page. So home loan inquiries, they have slowed down, and youth is seeking unsecured credit. So demand for the unsecured lending products, that is rising, which is driven by the adoption of consumption-led credit products. So patterns are flipping, and there has been a marked increase in demand for the credit cards and the personal loans. So young consumers, they now account for a major share of the demand for the loans. 43% जो inquiries आई for the loans, they were by the people in the age group of 18 to 30 years. And below prime consumers, they saw 4% point increase to 40% December quarter. So government, it brings back the windfall tax on oil companies. So government, it has brought back this windfall profit tax on the domestic crude oil after international prices they firmed up, while the levy on the export of diesel, it has been cut to nil. So windfall tax पर से ले आए गवर्नमेंट, बिकॉज windfall tax जो इम्पोज किया जाता है वो जो सडन प्रॉफिट्स होते हैं उसके ऊपर आपको विंडफॉल टैक्स पे करना पड़ता है, एंड मोस्ट ऑफन ये ऑयल कंपनीज पे ही इम्पोज किया जाता है। तो अभी जो रीसेंट डिसीजन लिया गया था ऑफ प्रोडक्शन कट बाय ओपेक प्लस, तो उसकी वजह से जो ऑयल प्राइसेस थे वो बहुत ज्यादा इंक्रीज हो गए थे, तो ऑब्वियसली उसकी वजह से ऑयल कंपनी ज्यादा प्रॉफिट भी कमाएंगी। तो उस प्रॉफिट के ऊपर, बिकॉज जो प्रॉफिट जब सडनली किसी एक ऐसे रीजन की वजह से इट सडनली स्पाइक्स, तो देन विंडफॉल टैक्स इम्पोज किया जाता है ऑन दैट अमाउंट ऑफ प्रॉफिट। कमिंग टू फाइनेंशियल एक्सप्रेस, सो यहाँ पे पॉपुलेशन की बात कर चुके हैं, इंडिया ओवरटेक्स चाइना, इट वुड बी ओवरटेकिंग इट बाय मिड 2023, एंड 53% ऑफ जो इंडिया में पॉपुलेशन है दैट इज बिलो 30 ईयर्स ऑफ एज। सो यूथ पॉपुलेशन हमारी कंट्री में इज मोर देन 50%। एंड टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट हम कंपेयर कर चुके हैं ब्रिक्स कंट्रीज का, वर्ल्ड का जो टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट है दैट इज 2.3, सो वी आर बिलो दिस। सो बाकी कंट्रीज में वी आर सीइंग कि उनकी पॉपुलेशन इज एजिंग। सो इंडिया में एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम जहां बाकी कंट्रीज में द पॉपुलेशन इज एजिंग, इंडिया ऑल्सो हैज द लार्जेस्ट यंग पॉपुलेशन इंडिया में मिलती है आपको। अभी हमने देखा कि मोर देन 50% इज बिलो 30 ईयर्स ऑफ एज। एंड जीडीपी पर कैपिटा की बात करें तो यू कैन सी कि 2000, 2010, 2021, सो हर डेकेड की दे रखी है। ब्लू इज फॉर इंडिया, सो इट वाज 2000 के टाइम में इट वाज अराउंड $2087। सो जीडीपी पर कैपिटा की बात कर रहे हैं 2010 नेक्स्ट डेकेड में इट ऑलमोस्ट डबल्ड, एंड उसके बाद 2021 में डबल नहीं हुई है बट इट इज अराउंड $7,242। इन कंपेयर टू दैट चाइना और वर्ल्ड की भी जीडीपी पर कैपिटा दे रखी है, तो चाइना में आप देखोगे कितनी एक्सपोनेंशियल ग्रोथ हुई है कंपेयर टू इंडिया। तो अगर हम 2000 में देखें तो इंडिया और चाइना दोनों ऑलमोस्ट सिमिलर पोजीशन पे थे, बट नेक्स्ट डेकेड में इंडिया की सिर्फ डबल हुई एंड चाइना इट क्रॉस्ड $9,000 का लेवल। 2021 में चाइना की by it has increased by $10,000 more. So this is there, and इसको हम इंडिया और वर्ल्ड की पोजीशन से भी कंपेयर कर सकते हैं। सो लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी की बात करें तो इंडिया में इट इज अराउंड 74 ईयर्स, चाइना में इट इज अराउंड 76, ग्लोबली इट इज सॉरी चाइना में या इट इज 76, एंड ग्लोबली वर्ल्ड की बात करें तो इट इज 82। सो यहाँ से आप देख सकते हो ग्रोथ का भी, जब स्टार्टिंग हुई 1980 की फिगर्स दे रखी है लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी। सो 1980 में इंडिया की थी 54 ईयर्स, सो 54 से ऑलमोस्ट एग्जैक्ट 20 साल इंक्रीज होगी आज के टाइम में 2023। सो 4 डेकेड्स में इट हैज इंक्रीज टू 20 ईयर्स। एंड वर्ल्ड की बात करें तो 62 थी, 62 से इट इज एट 76। चाइना की बात करें तो 64 से इट इज एट 82। सो चाइना में बहुत हाई है। एंड यहाँ पे पॉपुलेशन के लिए भी वी हैव गिवन दिस फिगर। सो पॉपुलेशन के लिए वर्ल्ड की यहाँ पे दे रखी है 1980 से 2023, तो यू कैन सी दैट द साइज ऑफ द सेमी सर्कल दे आर इंक्रीजिंग। एंड इंडिया और चाइना का अगेन यहाँ पे कंपैरिजन है, तो इंडिया का ब्लू में फिगर्स हैं, चाइना की रेड में है, सो दे हैव बीन जस्ट इंक्रीजिंग। सो इंडिया में 697 मिलियन था एंड आज के टाइम इट इज 1428 मिलियन। सो विंडफॉल टैक्स की हम ऑलरेडी बात कर चुके हैं कि कौन से सिनेरियो में इम्पोज किया जाता है, क्यों इम्पोज किया जाता है एंड होता क्या है। तो विल गो टू द एक्सप्लेनर सेक्शन, जहाँ पे विल टॉक अबाउट मोर अबाउट द डेमोग्राफिक्स। तो यहाँ पे अभी हमने स्टार्टिंग में ग्राफ्स के थ्रू थोड़ा समझा। सो वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन 2023 रिपोर्ट यूनाइटेड नेशंस पॉपुलेशन फंड है जो पब्लिश करता है, एंड विल बी बीटिंग अप चाइना। सो यहाँ पे अगेन फिगर्स दे रखे हैं, टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट की बात कर रखी है। सो पॉलिसी इम्पेरेटिव्स फॉर इंडिया की बात करें तो विद द टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट कमिंग डाउन, दो इट इज नॉट यूनिफॉर्मली अक्रॉस द कंट्री, बट जो पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल पॉलिसीज है दैट अ फ्यू स्टेट्स दे हैव बीन टॉकिंग अबाउट, दे मेक लिटिल सेंस since they are not going to yield a significant delta for the decline. So in any case, a larger chunk of respondents from India in a swap survey, they believe कि both the country's population and its fertility rate to be quite high. So against such a backdrop, adopting population control policies could do more damage than good, especially in terms of skewed sex ratio that we have. So it can skew further at the birth, and given India's pronounced son preference, so it can skew up more अगर population control measures impose किए जाते हैं. So the need right now, experts का कहना ये है, it is planning for improving the health and education outcomes for the younger segments of the population, providing skilling opportunities and creating sustainable and robust livelihood opportunities. So against the decline in the fertility rate जो इंडिया में भी हम देख रहे हैं, it is declining, and the implications for the age distribution of the populations in the coming decades, we also need to put in place the right social security structures as foster a robust care economy. So the expert consensus is universal healthcare, gender justice होने चाहिए, long-term plans for reskilling and upskilling along with the focus on sustainable consumption will be the key going forward. So ये बहुत important areas हैं. And young India definitely, जब हम demographic dividend की बात करते हैं, so it is that. And 15 से 64 years के बीच में जो population है, it accounts for 68% of the country's population. So 10 to 24 years old, they account for 26% of the total population, making India one of the most youthful nations in the world. So हमारे लिए policy imperatives का section बहुत ही important है. Coming to Indian Express now, so यहाँ पे अगेन जो चीजें डिस्कस कर चुके हैं हम अगेन उसको डिस्कस नहीं करेंगे. So I think we should directly move on to the editorial and the explained section. अगर यहाँ पे हमें कुछ यूजफुल मिलता है. So यहाँ पे ट्रेड डेटा की बात की गई है, having a relook at our export sector. So trade data points to opportunities for India, and government must act swiftly to seize those opportunities and the openings that we have. So recent trade data, it points to consequential shift in India's export basket. So क्या shift देखी जा रही है? 3 broad trends देखने को मिले हैं. सबसे पहला, after registering robust growth 2021-22 में, the country's merchandise exports, they have slumped in the second half of 2022-23. So जो merchandise exports है, they have slumped. This is the first trend. जो हमने significant growth register करी 2021-22 financial year में, उसके बाद merchandise exports बहुत ज़्यादा कम हो गए हैं. But during this period, the exports of electronic goods and mobile phones, उनमें significant jump देखने को मिला है. So ये हो गया पहला trend. Coming to the second trend, over the same period, services exports they have grew at a robust pace. So ये इंडिया की एक strength भी है जब हम services exports की बात करते हैं. And third trend is within services, exports of other IT services have gained considerable traction in the recent past. So IT sector के अंदर भी other IT services में बहुत considerable हमें growth देखने को मिली है in terms of exports. So this is suggesting the emergence of other drivers of growth. So इसमें services sector, IT sector का जो services हैं उनका export is playing very important role. There are the drivers, new drivers or the other drivers of growth. So how these trends play out could have a significant bearing on countries' trade performance in the coming years. So जो immediate outlook है that is shrouded in uncertainty क्योंकि with IMF's latest World Economic Outlook, so एक तो यही पता होना चाहिए fact है कि IMF publish करता है World Economic Outlook, it is projecting global growth and trade to slow down sharply. So India's exports, they will also come under pressure because of this thing, क्योंकि obviously exports अब global demand ही sharply decline हो जाएगी तो exports कैसे increase होंगे. And in this scenario, even though the government, it has recently unveiled a new trading policy भी आई है at this point of time, so more needs to be done to boost countries' exports. So that can be reducing the frictions in trade to ensuring a competitive exchange rate, lowering the tariffs, and signing broader and deeper free trade agreements. So यहाँ पे सारी important Supreme Court judgments mention की गई हैं that moved the needle on LGBTQ rights. So इस community से related जितनी भी Supreme Court की judgments रही हैं वो सारी यहाँ mention की गई. So this becomes very important. So let's start. सबसे पहले आती है नालसा versus Union of India. इसमें basically the Supreme Court, it upheld the constitutional validity of Section 377 of the IPC, and another bench, April 2014, it affirmed the constitutional rights of the transgender persons under Article 14, 15, 19, and 21 of the Constitution. So नालसा में the court agreed with virtually the same arguments जो उसने reject करी थी in the सुरेश कौशल case. So initially ये सुरेश कौशल versus Union of India case हुआ था जिसमें constitutional validity of Section 377 was upheld, but after that नालसा case में all these things were rejected जो पहले upheld किए गए थे. So court, it had upheld the right of transgender person to decide their gender. Then it also directed the center and state governments to grant legal recognition to their gender identity, such as male, female, and third gender. So उसके बाद ये changes भी हमें देखने को मिले. Coming to second judgment, case Puttaswamy versus Union of India, इसमें 2017 में 9-judge bench थी Supreme Court की. They unanimously recognized the right to privacy as a fundamental right under the Constitution. So इसमें right to privacy was upheld as a fundamental right, and so the view in the Kaushal case that the High Court had erroneously relied upon the international precedents in its anxiety to protect the so-called rights of the LGBT persons is, in our view, unsustainable. So the expression so-called seems to suggest the exercise of a liberty in the garb of right, which is illusionary. So this is an inappropriate construction of the privacy-based claims of the LGBTQ population. So ये basically पहले जो ये कौशल वाला केस था इसमें this was this thing which was held, and sexual orientation is an essential component of the identity, so equal protection demands protection of identity of every individual without discrimination. Third case is the Shafin Jahan versus the Union of India. So 2018 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट इट सेट असाइड केरला हाई कोर्ट की जजमेंट जिसने annul किया था मैरिज ऑफ 24-year-old woman who converted to Islam and married a man of her choice. So ruling recognized the right to choose one's partner as a facet of the fundamental right to liberty and dignity. So Smith, this was another derived fundamental right from this judgment. And the choice of a partner, whether it is within or outside marriage, it lies within the exclusive domain of each individual. So intimacies of marriage lie within a core zone of privacy, which is inviolable. So the absolute right of an individual to choose a life partner is not in the least affected by matters of faith. So social approval for intimate personal decisions is not the basis for recognizing them. So ये Supreme Court ने clearly mention किया. नेक्स्ट जजमेंट है शक्ति वाहिनी वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया. सो इसमें 2018 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट इशूड डायरेक्टिव्स टू प्रिवेंट ऑनर किलिंग्स at the behest of Kha panchayats and protect persons who marry without the approval of the panchayats. So इस ruling में कोर्ट ने recognize किया the right to choose a life partner as a fundamental right. So that's there. Then Navteej Johar वाली judgment में 2018 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट इसमें basically they have struck down the IPC section 377. So they decriminalized homosexuality by striking this section down. So LGBTQ community, they are equal citizens, and they underlined that there cannot be discrimination in law based on the sexual orientation and the gender. So you cannot discriminate on these grounds. नेक्स्ट जजमेंट है दीपिका सिंह वर्सेस द सेंट्रल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्राइब्यूनल. इसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अगस्त लास्ट ईयर 2022 में इट डिसाइडेड इन फेवर ऑफ अ वुमन हु वाज डिनाइड maternity leave for her first biological child on the ground that she had already availed the benefit for her two non-biological children. So ruling Supreme Court ने recognize किया atypical families including queer marriages which could not be confined in the traditional parenting roles. तो ये सारी इंपॉर्टेंट जजमेंट्स थी. पॉपुलेशन से रिलेटेड हम बहुत आज बात कर चुके हैं. So what is the meaning of this term? Dead naming. So dead name, it's essentially the name that a trans, non-binary or gender expansive person was called before they adopted a more self-affirming name. So this act of intentionally or not calling a trans, non-binary or gender expansive person by the dead name is known as dead naming. So इतना ज़्यादा important नहीं है. So मैन एनिमल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की बात करें तो आप अगर एलिफेंट्स को शिफ्ट कर दोगे तो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स फिर जहाँ आप एनिमल पॉपुलेशन को शिफ्ट कर रहे हो वहाँ पे भी एनिमल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स, ह्यूमन एनिमल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स देखने को मिलेगी. तो ये कोई परमानेंट सस्टेनेबल सोल्यूशन नहीं है. एंड लेसन्स फ्रॉम द पास्ट यहाँ पे मेंशन किए गए हैं, सो यू कैन जस्ट गो थ्रू देम. The Sudanese army and rival forces, they have agreed to another ceasefire, and that would be helping in bringing the situation under control. We've already talked about the quantum mission. So yeah, this is the repeated thing. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And there's also a PDF link that has been provided in the description box. And do hit the like button for this video and do subscribe to our channel.